As we often know that many things boil down from their altruism, the rights, the privileges, the duties, the brass tacks is the bottom line. You can have a company with a great cause, but it needs to be financially sustainable. So things boil down to money. At the bottom line, when it comes dealing with minimum support prices, we are talking about a line in the sand, which is a rate, which is money. Sugarcane, for example, the MSP has gone up from 315 to 340. It's a monetary figure. The demand is that it should be nearer 450. It's a monetary figure. Okay. So, what's the monetary figure of the cost of paralysis? There are some parts which is easy to calculate. What does it cost to organize a protest? Because as we all know, and Frederick the Great said this, Napoleon Bonaparte said this, that an army marches on its stomach. So if there's a protester army, well, it has to be fed. If there are 25,000 people who need to be fed 3 meals a day, what does that cost? You'll find out that it costs at least 37 lakh rupees a day. Okay. What does it cost to rent a JCB per day? What's the opportunity lost if you own the JCB by not renting it out? 12,000 bucks a day. What does it cost to rent a tractor per day? And you find it's 3,000 rupees a day. What does it cost to deploy police personnel on the ground? Few thousand rupees per day per person. What if it's a couple of thousand police personnel? Those are the easily measurable ones. What about the other more difficult to measure ones? If something is damaged or destroyed, you can calculate what the value of that particular good was. But how do you calculate the cost to the economy? Because you can calculate this. In Delhi, there is a very popular, and the Delhi government is promoting this for some time. They were promoting it in the last few months, you know, batti on, engine off, right? Listen, save petrol, even at a 1 minute red light stop, because, you know, that contributes to reduction in carbon emissions and pollution and so many things. What if you're stuck in a 3-hour traffic jam with a slowly creeping vehicle? How many liters of petrol and carbon emissions and pollution is that? Okay, what if your journey was 20 minutes and you spent 3 hours in the car? What does that cost you? And if you multiply that into tens of lakhs of cars, what is that extra cost? Okay, it's very difficult to calculate. Last time the CAIT said that the full duration of the protest, the farmers' protest, may have cost 60,000 crores. Now, I don't know how they come to that figure. I'm quoting their figure. I don't know. Is the cost zero to people not being able to go to work or having to change their plans, not being able to travel? Is the cost zero? Certainly, it's not zero. But what is it? I don't know. Let's open up this conversation. Joining us now on the broadcast, we have Pathikrit, Jayajit Bhattacharya joining us on the broadcast as well. Let me quickly rope in Ellen Rao as well. He's been from the DCP Special Cell, IPS officer. And we are hoping to be joined by BC Bhartiya. He's the National President of the Confederation of All India Traders, which is the CAIT, which I just mentioned. Mr. Bhartiya, can you hear me, sir? Mr. Bhartiya, are you able to hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Bhartiya, I'll ask you a straight question. Is there an economic cost to the blockade of the highways into Delhi?
You see, everything has to be very clear, and smooth movement of goods is necessary for good business. If there is blockage of highway, the whole economic cycle get crippled. You see, and now the people from other places are not sending goods to North India because they are afraid. How many days the trucks may be stand still? What will happen? So this has definitely crippled the whole economic activity, especially for North India.
Okay, why? So for people watching this broadcast, I know that the national highway system around Delhi is very important to access Punjab, Western UP, Haridwar, Dehradun, going to Pathankot, Kashmir, going to Rajasthan, that the Delhi is a very important junction. Can you explain the importance of Delhi's highway system for the transit of trade in North India, sir?
You see, since ages, Delhi has been a very big um, uh, commercial center for movement of goods to entire North India and also UP, Bihar and other places. The road connectivity is made in such a way that trucks has to pass through Delhi or nearby Delhi. And in such a situation, when there is uncertainty, people in other places are afraid. They are afraid to buy goods from North India. They are afraid to sell goods in North India because of uncertainty. And this is hindering trade in a big way. The flow of money that is expected to come, that is not coming. And this will have a long-term impact if this strike continues for long. So this is definitely cause of concern. It has economic cost for all these activities, and the farmers should understand that bringing others in trouble or economy of the country in trouble may not be their object.
Because of course, that's not their objective. I'm not assuming that's their objective. I'm assuming that there is an unintended, unhappy consequences, a consequence of what is happening. Now, the truck driver, ladies and gentlemen, who's stuck in traffic, who anyway drives 14, 15 hours a day, is not a rich person. Okay. He is just trapped on the side of the road because even if a mobike can get through, the truck certainly ain't getting through. Okay. The cops are even not going to allow it. Okay. The truck owning company, let's say who owns 4, 5 trucks, that person is not a wealthy industrialist. 2 or 3 days of loss, 5 or 10 days of loss, your entire months of profit is gone.
You see,
finish your thoughts, and then I'll get to the others. Finish your thought, Mr. Bhatia.
You see, the loss for 2, 3 days is not that important. What is important is long-term effect of what is happening. If this uncertainty is there, the truck driver may leave the truck and go to his home. Then what will happen to material lying there? So we have to see holistically. We have to supply material, time-bound material.
Okay.
Are we in a position to do that? Okay. No. Then we have to get material from North India. We are not getting. What is happening to those industries who are dependent on raw material from North India? So we have to see your intention may be
So at what point of time do we say, okay, we can't have blocked highways? Is it at an inconvenience because we are stuck in traffic while going to a party or a wedding? Is it at the point where businesses stop operating? Is it at the point where the logistics chain breaks down? Is it the point where the fuel supply chain breaks down and you don't have fuel? Punjab is facing this problem already. Is it the point when the food supply chain breaks down? Okay, which also comes via trucks. So at what point of time do we say, hang on, oopsie daisy, blockading of highways is not a good thing because Delhi is a choke point for the entire North India. I remind you, through Pathankot into J&K, through Dehradun, Haridwar, into Western UP, Rajasthan, Punjab, into the borders, in Haryana. It all goes through Delhi. Okay? Now just stay with me, sir. Let me get Ellen Rao into this. Rao Saab, good to have you back with us. Let me just ask you, just your estimate, sir, of the constant deployment, not for a day or two, but for weeks and months of personnel on the ground. Does that have a cost to the police force?
Definitely. Good evening to all your viewers. Definitely, there is you can see the whole department of Delhi Police and other Haryana Police and Punjab Police. They are deployed on the roads, and the other necessary work is being affected. Not only the cost to the exchequer, but to the other services of the police, which are to be rendered to the general public. They are facing a great problem. Even I'm going to the courts. In courts, police officers do not come for evidences, and there's only one reason that they are deployed with the Kisan Movement Adonal and the Kisan Movement arrangements. And the judges also are helpless. They have to give dates to that. Not only this directly or indirectly, so many affected parties are there in Delhi and NCR. So this is not only a cost to the Delhi police, which is very important, but also the main work of police is suffering. Land order situation inside Delhi, crime control inside Delhi, and the investigation part of inside Delhi, that is all affected by these movements. So,
Okay. How often in your career, sir, in a long career of many decades, did you see something like this, that the entire land access into Delhi is under question on all sides, that everywhere you go, you get stuck?
No, this is unique this time, not only this time and 2 years back. Only within 2 years I am seeing this thing, and before that, during my entire service of 36 years, I could not see, and I did not see such type of land blocking inside Delhi or outside Delhi. That is the very the sad part of this situation.
Okay, quickly, Mr. Rao, when it comes to emergency services, which is ambulances, fire trucks, police vans operating in high traffic congestion areas, even with the light and the sirens and being able to direct traffic, does it affect emergency services?
Sure, definitely. It's affecting the ambulance services are being affected mostly, and the more important that the essential services like the perishable goods like fruit, vegetable, and other milk or so many other things are being. These services are also affected, and as Mr. Bhartia was explaining that these the loss to the truck drivers and the common people, that is also very considerable.
Okay.
So only emergency services and other things are also affected adversely because of this movement.
Okay, it need not. If you move the protest to the side of the road into a maidan or a stadium and you continue it and you make sure the union ministers are coming and going and the negotiations are continuing, all of this goes away. So it's the means and the methods, which of course has a direct bearing. If you have traveled or intend to travel anywhere outside Delhi or into Delhi, I of course have to avoid you not to. Imagine if the Delhi airport was shut down, locked down. Entire air traffic all over the country would be crippled. International air travel to India would collapse. Okay, now are we saying that's just a minor inconvenience to some rich people who travel abroad? No, your entire business structure collapses. Okay, you're organizing a premier event in New Delhi, wouldn't have been able to take place. Okay, so let me get Jayjeet Bhattacharya into this. Jayjeet, now the question then is, how do we ever calculate? It is rather ephemeral. Is it a best guess that how do we calculate the economic cost? Because we are looking at the economic cost of MSP and you need maybe 1 lakh of crores, 2 lakh crores. How do we calculate the economic cost of a couple of months of Delhi lockdown?
We have seen the estimates being put in, and CIT had put in an estimate of 16,000 crores. Let me just take the things up from grounds up. Somebody who is paying an EMI for a rented car, which he or she is running on the street and is running it as an aggregated cab driver, needs to earn at least 1,500 rupees a day to be able to pay back for the fuel, to be able to pay back for the EMI, and to be able to take back at least 600-700 rupees a day in order to run their household. Now, if you have a protest like this person is not going to be able to run their car and therefore will not be able to earn, and therefore will actually have to at some point in time forfeit the car and therefore lose the asset, which is the only means of livelihood for this person. Because if for 2-3 months, 4 months, this person is not able to drive the car or the truck or the van or the three-wheeler, whatever that be, then you're taking away the entire livelihood of this person. Now, how do we calculate this as a loss? It is not just the loss of 700 rupees a day. It's a complete damage to the livelihood of this person and the destruction of the asset that this person is having, because the interest cost of debt comes in and this person is not able to drive the vehicle. What about the person who is supposed to come in and work in households? Because of the protest, this person is not able to come. The household is not willing to pay for no services delivered after some time, and this person is pushed into destitution. And especially if you look at the time that we are going through, where post-COVID there has been a significant price rise, just like everywhere else in the world. And even though we have been able to manage inflation, the common people are still struggling. Under that context and in that background, if there are protests happening which stops them from just going around and having their livelihood, the damage is enormous. It's not just the 200 rupees, 300 rupees loss. And therefore, the long-term economic impact becomes very, very significant. Now, look at the trader supply chain. Why will they now depend on supply chain where that goes through Delhi if every 1 to 2 years there are massive protests happening? The last time there was protests, there was only on the western border of Delhi, there were 40,000 farmers protesting. Now, if with that kind of a siege being put on Delhi, it will be natural that people will bypass Delhi, which means that they will go through convoluted routes, which means the cost of transportation will go up to the rest of the country, which means there will be further inflation happening. And besides the other issues that you mentioned, Rishabh, about pollution going up and so on and so forth, that is absolutely true. But just from a pure economic perspective and hard, cold numbers,
we are impacting I can escalate it, right? So now that's everybody who's traveling out of Delhi and can't or does not want to travel by air, because that's the only recommendation I can give right now, is cancelling those visits. Okay, everybody traveling into Delhi by road is going to have to think, unless it's an emergency. If you are living and working and the entire ecosystem of Delhi has been worked around on the ecosystem of the National Capital Region, which means you have a porous border. Okay, it's designed like that. But when you have a hard border and suddenly you can't get to Gurugram easily or Noida easily or Greater Noida easily, it potentially on a bad day, if you get stuck between one of those protest surges, it takes longer to get to Gurugram than it could take to get to Jaipur, okay, on a normal day. So you can't function, which means you can't go to work, you can't go to your business center, you can't go to your factory. And how long can you do this? And the issue is not just that the siege, it's unpredictable. So you might go at one particular time and it's fine, and you might go 3 hours later and you're stuck for 4 hours, 5 hours. You can't be stuck for 10 hours a day in a car. That means you're only working for 1 hour a day. Okay. So let me get Patikrit in. Now, Patikrit, let's look at the other side of the economy, because of course there is a cost to an organized protest. Okay. If you just bring 25,000 people and you need to feed them 3 meals a day, if you need to get the JCBs and you want to modify them and you need to pay for the gas masks, and you need to bring in the tractors and the trailers and provide and provision for night stays for everyone. How do we calculate how much all this is costing?
I've heard somewhere from a very, very legitimate source that it costs nothing less than 37 lakhs a day. And let me tell you, we would be naive to presume that it's a spontaneous movement by very, very poor people. It's not. There are shadow organizations working behind it, and what they're doing right now is basically they are laying a siege on the national capital region, and they're trying to pin down the sovereign government of one of the biggest economies of the world. And let me tell you, there are organizations in the world, we might call them deep state or whatever. They don't want a strong government to stay. They want disruptions. So let me tell you one thing, how it impacts. Last time it was evident that a significant amount of money came from Canada, and there was something called pocket funding. So for a large number of accounts where less than 1 lakh was
transferred. I don't know. No, so who's going to tell us? I don't know how much it's costing. So I don't know how much it costs to organize a political rally, because the political parties don't tell us, all of them. They're not transparent. So why don't we just be told? Why don't we come and be told? I was discussing today with my team that let's assume it's costing 40-50 lakhs, maybe ₹1 crore a day to run this protest. If you just set up a kiosk at the Delhi border and ask the farmers, who are of course looking for extra funds, to come and collect ₹1 crore a day, wouldn't that be a better use of money? And I don't say that in jest. How do we calculate? Should we ask the farmer leaders to tell us how much money they're spending every day?
Well, imagine one thing, Rishabh, 25,000 people coming, their basic daily wage even, would be nothing less than 600 to 700 rupees. So are we to believe they're just coming for the heck of it because they are on the verge of starvation? No, I think if you look at it in Punjab, the average per capita income of farmers in Punjab is 2.5 times that of the national average. So they are pretty well off. Now, if they are coming here, they're not coming because they have a lot of time. There's a certain amount of no protest, no war. You mentioned when you started this program, Rishabh, that no army can fight on empty stomach. Similarly, no movement can work without funds. And I can assure you, it might be controversial. I do not think this is a legitimate money that is being used for this.
Okay, all right. So Patikrit, one JCB, can we get the visuals of the JCB being deployed? So one JCB costs between 30 and 50 lakh rupees, depending on the size, make, model, of course. So between 30 and 50, one JCB, okay? If you don't buy it and you rent it, it's between 12 and 15,000 rupees a day. So somebody's got to pay for this. Now, should we ask for the farmers? I'm assuming that they're all collecting house to house, door to door, and all of these guys are pooled in resources in the most honest of way. I'm not assuming for a second that this is malified, okay? But we are then being told that households that are as it is poor are being asked to put together money so that a JCB can be bought and it can be put, some armored steel can be put on it to break barricades. Is that what we have to assume, Patikrit?
Rishabh, these JCBs and other tractors have been recalibrated. There were workshops on which this work happened. That itself cost lakhs of rupees. So first of all, you buy something, then you recalibrate it, you make it like a weapon, you use it on the road knowing that it can be damaged, and there is somebody who is okay to take the cost of all of it. That means somebody is there who is rich enough to fund all of it for the sake of laying a siege on the national capital of India. So if are we to believe it is just for the sake of a spontaneous economic cause? I don't think so. You know, this is something else going on. It requires an enormous amount of money. Rishabh, my last point. Arab Spring costed a lot of money to certain organizations to create disruption across Middle East. There were civil wars in one state after another. Arab Spring was done from certain organizations based in the West. So I don't, you know, this was the same thing which was attempted last time in 2022. Imagine on that day of 26th January, even if one bullet had been fired on the protesters on the Red Fort, I tell you one thing with responsibility, there were organizations with ambulance ready in Delhi to have chakkars being made out in Delhi to show how brutal the police is.
Okay.
So it was an entire
I
game
don't
plan.
know. Okay, I don't know, but I'm just trying to get to the mathematics of it. And the best way to find out, of course, is that I'm sure these protest organizers will come out and tell us that this is why we are raising the funds. We are going door to door, house to house. We are collecting chanda from people, from motivated people who are donating 30, 40 lakh JCBs to the cause, willing to have them destroyed. They're donating tractors to the cause. I'm sure that will happen. Okay, I'm short of time, but I just want to touch base with everybody once again. Ellen Rao, now what is your best hope when it comes to understanding that a lot of money is being destroyed and burnt in the North Indian economy? Why don't we just utilize the amount of money we're going to lose and spend it on a good cause, which farming surely is?
Rishabh, this is very good suggestion from you, but I don't think that will not serve their purpose, because they don't want to distribute that money instead of wasting this money in this protest. I will say this is not a protest which is democratically allowed. This is illegal. Having the road holdups and seizing the roads, causing unnecessary inconvenience to the general public. This is not a protest, and definitely their intention is something else. So this idea will not take away by these protesters. They don't want to do that.
Okay.
This is a very nice idea.
All right. So then, if there is a cost, Jayajit Bhattacharya, who pays? If you and I and all of us have to bear the cost of opportunity lost, of business lost, who bears the burden of that?
You know, clearly each one of us, from the middle class, from the poorest of the classes, all of us end up bearing. And just another thought, Rishabh, is that if it's mandatory for political parties to reveal where they're getting the funding from, I believe it is important that protesters should also reveal where they're getting the funding from, and that should be public information. And at the end of the day, it's the poorest in the society who gets the worst of the brunt. If people don't drive out for the short visits, they won't go to the dhaba on the highway, and that person stops having their income. And that is clearly not unfair. You can't be stepping on somebody else's livelihood to talk about how one should earn more in your own livelihood. Okay. So this is clearly not, something is acceptable in a civilized society.
I don't think that's unreasonable. I think, yes, for the betterment of the credibility amongst all of us, of the bona fides of this, I'm sure this matter will come up in the Supreme Court. We were just discussing, I think, electoral bonds this last week. So I'm sure this will be encouraged by the highest jurists of the land, that there should be transparency in who's organizing a protest. One would just be curious. I'm assuming the best intent, that this is chanda collection door to door, crowdfunding has happened, and the crowdfunding has generated up to 30, 40, 50 lakhs a day that is going to cost to feed 25,000 people. 50 rupees a meal, what do you think it costs per meal? 50 rupees a meal to feed someone. So 150 rupees a day, multiply that by 25,000, it gives you a figure. That's just back of the envelope. Patikrit, should there be some transparency on who's funding this, where the money comes from?
Well, Rishabh, absolutely. And after the 2022 incident, whatever happened, government has put in a lot of restrictions on the remittance that is coming. There is a certain amount of monitoring happening, but this should come out where it is coming from, the money. And let me tell you, those who are doing this, with all due respect, the points they have put in after the final session of the parliament is over, it is very, very clear they know the government cannot agree to the points, that it cannot be passed in the parliament now. So they were okay for the long haul. They were ready for the long haul.
Okay, yes, they are ready for the long haul. We know that they've got food for 60 days, okay, which is just conveniently just enough until the elections get over. I don't want to elude any motivations. I'm going to assume the best motivations amongst all my fellow countrymen and women. I would just like to know where the money is coming from, and I'm assuming that a transparency will be offered, and we'll be able to showcase to you that here is a list of 20,000 people, all of whom have contributed a few hundred rupees each. It's been crowdfunded, and that's how they're paying for the JCBs and the tractors and the food and the stay. Last time there were foot massages and whatnot, and it's the spirit of community which we should celebrate. But transparency is always a good thing, no? It's always good to know. It generates trust amongst people, and I'm sure people who saw the transparency would appreciate it. Meanwhile, I'll leave this mathematics to you. How much is it going to cost us, cost the country, cost Delhi, cost people, cost the middle class, cost the poor, cost the farmers themselves? We can just put some logic back of the envelope figures for you. The truth is, no one knows. But can you really think it's costing nothing?
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.